I'm sure you'll all watch it. A warm welcome to our visitors today. And if you enjoyed today's meeting and want to come back, Steve McCoy Thompson or Ricky would love to talk to you about membership. Thank you today for our greeter, Richard Mankins, and our attendance recorder, Kirk Gregory. Yes, give him a hand. And thank you for taking today's registration, Kathleen O'Leary, and and Kathleen Alameda for taking money as well. So now if we could have I said him, I got him. See, you're trying to mess me up. This is the first time I've ever done this. I'm sensitive. So if Cove would lead us, where'd he go? There he is, in the pledge.
Hand over your heart to me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and you may be seated. Pause recording if we will, and if we have any We Care items or happy dollar items, international video.
A question or a statement?
Statement. That's kind of a question like, is it ready? Code for was it ready? Thank you, Ricky. Then song.
No offense, but if you.
Wrong song.
Oh, I'm sorry, but you got. There's a little known trend attracting millions of dollars a day right now called.
Hello, fellow Rotarians. Today's song is This Little Light of Mine. And I want you to sing it fine like I know you can. Let's go.
Thank you, Don.
That's great.
Don will always remain in our hearts as long as he sings on Rotary. Okay. Inspiration. We have a special guest today that's going to give us an inspirational moment. Welcome, Heidi Murphy.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Heidi. Thanks for letting me be your inspirational moment speaker today. I'm going to give you a little background on this picture to start because you may not think this looks very inspirational. But this is a picture of my son. And yes, that's me hanging out of the raft. This was I was trying to get back in, actually. So this was taken at a time when my relationship with my son was incredibly struggling. He was struggling in life. He was struggling with school, just didn't really know where he wanted to go. And the one thing we had in common was adventure. We went rock climbing, we went backpacking, we went snowboarding, we went surfing. And in this photo, we were on a whitewater rafting trip. How many of you have ever whitewater rafted? Oh, a lot of you. This is great. So I don't know if you got the same safety lesson at the beginning, but the guy stands there and he says, okay, so this is going to be great. Your life vests are on. He said, if you fall out, don't worry about it. Just lean back. Your life vest will hold you up. Just roll with the current until it gets calmer and then you can swim out. Well, sure enough, I fell out of the boat. So I was like, okay, here I go. Lay in there. So in this photo, obviously I had been rolling with the current for a while, finally got to calmer waters. But what I love about this picture is that it highlights for me three things that really inspire me in life. The first one's humility. We all are weak in different ways. We all make mistakes. We all fall down. And it's important to just be open and honest about those because when you do, other people can help you up. I couldn't quite get myself into the boat on this, but these lovely ladies helped keep the boat balanced. My son hoisted me up. The second really then leads to that. It's the power of your network, the power of the people around you. When you're humble, the people around you can be strong. They can lift you up. They can pick you up. They're there to support you. And that leads to the third one, which is really the power of grit in life, persistence, right? That we all grow stronger mentally, emotionally, physically, every time we get back up. So we all fall. It's how many times we get back up that sets us apart. And so those are the three things I wanted to leave you with today: the power of humility, relationship, persistence, and grit. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Heidi. I will look at falling out of a boat a little different now. Thank you. No, I know, right? It'd be different. It'd be different for me. Then I'll be like, here, push him back in. We didn't see anything. Okay, I'd like to welcome any visiting Rotarians. Do we have any visiting Rotarians? I didn't see any. Ah, we have one. Oh, how about a guest? Guest Rotarians, that's probably.
Good afternoon. My guest today, it gives me great privilege to introduce my first son, Anton Schweigerling.
Hi, I'm very happy to introduce a prospective board member or Rotary member, so please be on your best behavior. This is Barbie. She's actually involved in cybersecurity, and you're a past Rotary member in Modesto?
No, my father was.
Oh, your father. Oh, so please.
Oh, hi, Barbie.
Oh my God.
I've lived in Pleasanton since 2011. I grew up in Rotary with my dad, who was president for the Modesto Sunrise Rotary, and got to know a lot of great people there and a lot of great initiatives that they had there. And I've got 2 teenage kids, so therefore I also have dogs, so I always feel loved.
Hi, I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine. We've been friends for over 40 years. He's lived in Pleasanton over 65 years. And he came in second place in the poker event we just had. So held his own really good. Anyway, Dale Morris. And Dale's also a potential Rotarian.
Dale's been here 80 years.
Thank you, Roger. And do we have any Zoomers? I think we do. Clark Payan. Oh, hang on. We're going to unmute you so you can say no.
Oh, there you go. How you doing? Hello, everybody.
Thank you, Clark, for zooming in. And Steve Van Dorn. Where's Steve Van Dorn? He's supposed to be running the meeting.
Hey. Welcome. Good to see everybody. Thanks, Randy, for running the meeting. I'm here in Amsterdam on the roof of my son's apartment. It's 9:30 at night, and the sun does not go down until 11 p.m. So it's just beginning party time. So miss you guys and ladies, and look forward to seeing you on my return.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome.
And
Do you think we can fit that in as demotion there?
I think we can. I think we can. Yeah, for sure. And we have Julie Lewis. She's joined us as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm actually in San Francisco today. I have a friend who has a nonprofit called A Meal with Dignity, and we're making 60 lunches today and taking them out to deliver them in the streets to the homeless. So I'm just taking a break to check in with you and attend the meeting, and then I'm going to be hitting the streets.
Doing good and having fun. Thanks, Julie, for representing Rotary.
Absolutely.
Andrea Wilson.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for letting me join on Zoom today. My kids are home for summer break, so a lot of driving to and fro, and this is a little bit easier. Have a good meeting.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us. Let's see. Announcements. Nancy would like to have an announcement. And Bill, you're next. You're on deck.
I want to talk just a couple of minutes about our WASH project, water and sanitation in West Africa. And we're really excited because our 11th International Club to Club project was just completed at Oshodi Primary School in Lagos. And you'll see this was the banner that they put up at the grand opening for the students and the staff at the school. They had a picture of Jim, which they include on there, which I thought was kind of cool. You'll see that, second slide, please. This was a partnership, the second one we had with the Rotary Club of Onigbangbo in Lagos, Nigeria, and it's the renovation of a primary school toilet facility. The cost was $6,432. They contributed $1,000. We gave $5,432. Next slide. You'll see the before and after. We started this project in March 2024. You can see the condition was pretty bad, and I think this was a result of the school being shut during COVID. So it was unusable. Now you'll see in June what it looks like. They just had the kind of inauguration of the new facility. It really does look great. And you'll see the kids are really enjoying it. And so this was our 9th completed project with on our WASH, which is fantastic, we think, over the 3 years. And we wanted to share that with all of you. And also, we're looking for more members for our committee. We've lost a couple of people because they've moved on. So if you're interested in international projects and being involved in working with Rotary clubs in West Africa or Philippines, or actually I met somebody from Uganda. I think that we're going to have a project with them too. Just let myself or Gary know. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Come on, Bill. You're supposed to be on deck. It's not very much on deck.
So as everybody knows, this is our last month of our Rotary year. And so we get to demote President Steve Van Dorn pretty soon, which that video might make it into our skit. So there's 7 past presidents working on a committee right now. We have Larry Annis, Gary Schwagerly, Dick Stafford, myself, Ricky, Randy, who am I, not Mike Hosterman, and am I missing anybody, Ricky? But we're all working on a fun script. We're going to have that on Tuesday, July, and Dick Stafford, I think I said his name. Tuesday, Dick and his alter ego as well. Tuesday, July 16th. Mark your calendars. It'll be at Sidetrack like we've done for the last few years at 5 o'clock, and it will cost $30 for a meal. That will include soft drinks, tea, and water. And if you would like to have adult beverages, it will be $45. It will include 2 adult beverages, and we'll figure out who's going to collect the money. Probably Kathy, because she raises her hand every time we ask for something. Thank you, Kathy. So if you have any questions about that, please come see me. If you have anything that you think might be funny to add to our skit, just let any of us know. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Bill. I would highly recommend lots of adult beverages. That way it's funny. We wanted you to think it's funny. Okay. Next, Brad Hurst, would you like to introduce our speaker?
Okay, Acting President Randy, fellow Rotarians, it's a pleasure today to have a young man, Jacob Wingate, who's new to Pleasanton, been here less than 6 months. Jacob is the operating partner at Fleet Feet. Fleet Feet, as you know, has been one of our in-kind sponsors of the Spirit Run for many, many years, and we appreciate it. And Jacob has already said, I've heard about it. We're going to continue it. Jacob comes to us from mid-Ohio. After being raised in Ohio, he joined the United States Air Force, served in North Carolina, Texas, and Colorado, Arizona. Good places to be from. And he's been in Pleasanton for just a few months. Please welcome Jacob Wingate.
Thank you for the introduction, and thanks for the opportunity to come out and talk to you guys a little bit about myself and about Fleet Feet. So wanted to start by, we'll kind of cover a little bit about myself, Fleet Feet, my journey with Fleet Feet, and why I think what we do is such an incredible thing for our community and for communities around the country. So I've been working with Fleet Feet for about a year now, started with them last June, and then moved to Pleasanton here in just about 2 months ago in mid-April. So before I started working with Fleet Feet, I had never actually been in the store or worked for them before or anything like that. My only exposure to them had been at a race to pick up a bib up in Folsom, California a few years ago. But I was finishing up an internship for school. I was living in West Virginia at the time in kind of a rural town, just doing some community development work there with the city parks department. And as that time was kind of coming to an end, I was looking for jobs. My degree was in Parks and Recreation. Was originally planning on doing kind of something in the Forest Service or national parks and kind of coming back out into the West and doing that. But I'd always had kind of this interest. My hobby has been running for so long and had an interest in pursuing that as a career if I could find a way to do it. So I was looking for a lot of different jobs kind of in the run space, and then came across this opportunity with Fleet Feet called an Operating Partner Development Program. I had no idea what an operating partner was or anything about the position. So I had emailed the HR email that was on it and asked a bunch of questions, and they kindly responded to the email in a timely manner and answered all my questions and more. So I decided to apply for it. And during the application process, there's kind of a core belief within Fleet Feet across the country that running changes everything. It's a phrase that you'll hear a lot. And there was a question on the application about, what does that mean to you? And so I kind of went back and forth on this answer because it was the last question I had to answer on it. And I was debating whether I wanted to have kind of a professional buttoned up answer or just kind of speak from the heart and answer it that way. And it took a while to kind of get my thoughts about it, and kind of just decided I was going to just answer it the truest that I could. And if I didn't get the job because of it, so be it. So the story that I told kind of explaining that answer is something that happened a couple years ago. But kind of my running journey starts really much earlier than that. And so I want to talk just a little bit briefly about that, kind of why that's so important to me and why that running changes everything is something that kind of really I believe in. So my running journey started when I was in between 6th and 7th grade. I have an older brother who's about 4.5 years older than I am. he ran cross country and track, and I, being the younger brother, kind of just wanted to follow in his footsteps and do whatever he was doing. So I kind of decided, you know what, he did this, I'm going to do it too. So first time I ever went out for a run, my mom drove me up to the cemetery on the north side of town, kind of dropped me off in the parking lot and let me run around this 1 mile loop around the cemetery as she followed behind me in a vehicle. I made it probably about a quarter of a mile before realizing this was a very bad idea and I was not going to be able to complete this loop. So I kind of just spent the rest of the time doing walking and running, and finally got to the end of this 1 mile loop and felt like you know what, this just isn't for me. And this is something that has continued. My response to this is kind of something that I still have, in that sense that my initial reaction was I just never want to do this again. And then probably 24 hours later, I was kind of already thinking about maybe I can do this. So that was kind of my first foray into it. And then a couple months later, when we started training for the cross country season in 7th grade, and during the first practice, all my friends who were joining the team as well, they had run, their parents were runners, and they were much more advanced in it than I was. So they were doing multiple miles in the first practice, and I was doing about a 1 mile loop with a couple other people that had run the year before. And I remember just feeling so intimidated because here's these people who are doing so much more than I am, and they did this before and all this. And I felt like so out of place. And I remember I was running with a guy and a girl who had been on the team the year before and going into 8th grade. And we did this about a 1.25 mile loop from the school. And about halfway through it, I was stopping and walking, and they kindly stopped with me and walked with me and everything like that. And whether they were just out of shape or they were just felt bad for me, I don't know. But it kind of stuck with me. And so that was kind of one of the big first lessons that I've learned with running, and something that I still take today, is that to not put people above yourself, that some people may be further along in their journey, whether that is in running or any aspect of life. It is a journey, and there isn't anybody who's necessarily ahead of you. Some people might just have a head start. And then by the end of the 8th grade year for track in the spring, I was gotten pretty good at running, and I had ran a 1 mile in 5 minutes and 9 seconds, which was pretty fast for an 8th grade kid. And looking back on it now, it was such a big lesson to me, in that in less than a 2-year period, I went from not being able to run more than a quarter mile really to being able to be pretty fast at this. And a big lesson to take away from me when I look back on it is just keeping perspective on, if you want to achieve big goals and you want to achieve big things, it's going to take time. And keeping that big picture perspective is super important. Because if you focus in on the day-to-day, there was probably no progress if I was looking at that. But when you kind of scope out and look at it over a full 2-year period, it was quite a lot of progress. So that's something that still sticks with me today. The rest of my high school running career was very pedestrian, and I was okay and everything like that. After I graduated high school, I would join the Air Force, was in there for 6 years. Didn't really keep with running or anything like that until about 2015, when I was stationed in North Carolina in Goldsboro. There was an opportunity to run the Air Force Marathon, and it was in Dayton, Ohio. And I grew up about an hour and 15 minutes from Dayton, Ohio, and I was going to get a 1-week vacation. And so I said, I used to run, I think I can do this, and I'll get a paid 1-week vacation, go visit some family. So I said, sign me up. And so I went, did that, first half of it was great, second half of it was terrible. So ended up finishing after a long kind of second half of it in about 4 hours and 40 minutes or so. And again, it was kind of that same reaction I had at the first time I ran, in the sense that I just never wanted to do it again. I said, this is a one-time thing. I'm never going to do this again. That did not end up being true. So after a couple more years, I got moved out to Tucson, Arizona. When I first moved there, my boss at the time he was a runner, and he was a marathon runner. And so I had mentioned that I ran this Air Force Marathon with him. So then he politely invited me out to this running group that he had. And I remember feeling that I didn't want to say no, because this is the first time I'm meeting him and I don't want to kind of disappoint him. So I remember going out the night before this, and I remember went to a sporting goods store and bought like a new shirt and hat and all this stuff to run, because I wanted to look the part. Lo and behold, I actually went to the wrong address. He gave me the wrong address. So then I just had kind of all this new running gear for no reason. So I said, I'll just put it to use. So I started running again at that point in time. And then later on in the year, I was overseas in Kuwait for about 4.5 months. And when I got over there, a couple of my friends that I was there with, they invited me to go to the gym the first night. And I was kind of a scrawny little runner. I'd never been really into the gym or weightlifting or anything like that. So I just kind of made up an excuse that, yeah, I'm going to go to the gym, but I'm actually going to go run on the treadmill for a little bit. And so I did that while they were lifting. And then kind of at the end of this run, I kind of realized how much I really enjoy this activity. And so then I started getting this idea again of, okay, well, what if I actually train for this marathon? Like I might be able to do a little bit better than I did last time. So I trained my 4.5 months there, got back, ran a marathon in Phoenix, Arizona in February. Luckily, it wasn't too hot in February, and ended up finishing in about 3.5 hours or so, and was pretty happy with that. And then felt kind of inspired and kind of built this momentum up. And so eventually ran the same thing basically happened next year. I was over in Kuwait again over the summer and trained over there in the treadmills in the gym and just mindless miles on that, like staring at a wall for hours. It's wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but got back, ran even faster, and had this kind of goal of qualifying for the Boston Marathon, because at this point I'd kind of found out about that. And the qualifying time for Boston was 3 hours and 5 minutes at the time. And then I ended up running 3 hours and 1 minute. So I was super excited. And then I found out after the race that Boston had actually changed their qualification standards that year. And it was actually 3 hours now to qualify. So I was very disappointed, but kind of like went back and just kind of got the motivation again to train. So at this point, it's 2019, it's my last year in the Air Force, and living in Arizona, I got into a lot of backpacking and hiking and found the sport of trail running. So I kind of was interested in that. So I signed up for a race in October, which is a couple months after I got out of the Air Force. Did that, went really well, loved it, fell in love with kind of running in these trails and the beautiful scenery all across Arizona. And then I was planning on running the Tucson Marathon in December. And then about a week after this trail race in October, I ended up having to had a medical emergency come up and had to have an emergency surgery. And that race was gone. I wasn't able to run for a little while. So then had to restart kind of this journey again. And then later on in beginning of 2020, I was volunteering at a race up in just north of Phoenix. There was a 100-kilometer trail race. And I kind of had this interest in trying to push my limits a little bit even further. Okay, I've done a marathon. Can I do 100 kilometers? So I volunteered at a race, kind of just saw it from the ground and fell in love with it and decided I was going to sign up for it the next year. And so that was something I trained for all summer. Then the pandemic happened and didn't really know if this race was going to happen or not, but I just said, I signed up, I'm going to train for it and all this thing. So ended up getting to the start line in February of 2021. And that was a very similar experience as my first marathons, because it was about a half to about 2/3 of the race were really, really good. And then the last third or so was just really, really terrible. But I learned kind of from the first experiences, my bad experiences with the races, that it wasn't necessarily about the outcome. It really was just about the journey. It was really about that I enjoyed being out there. So I just kind of remember going up this hill in the Arizona desert and just kind of having this idea that, I'm just going to keep a smile on my face. I'm going to do what I can, and I'm going to get to the finish line when I get there. And ended up taking way more longer than I was originally planning for it. It was dark by the time I finished, but I got to the finish line with a smile on my face, with the idea that I don't know if I ever want to do this again. It was tough to walk. My legs were trashed. I had to hobble off of a bus into a car. But a couple of days later, I remember calling my parents and kind of talking them through how this entire experience. And my dad asked me if I would ever consider doing something like this again. By this point, I'd kind of realized the cycle of, okay, I'm going to have this bad experience, and next day I'm going to feel like I'm going to do this and more. So I had this idea, okay, well, I'm going to do this. Yes, I definitely want to do this again and get better at it, but I actually want to do a 100-mile race now. And so that was a very, he kind of had this reaction as I would expect, in disbelief. So decided to sign up for a race in November of 2021 up in Folsom, California, and trained all summer for it in the miserable Phoenix heat. Finally to come up here, and it was beautiful weather up here, so that was great. And I remember standing at the starting line of this 100-mile race at 5 o'clock in the morning in this area of the country, this town that I'd never been to in my life, and it's dark, and there's 400 other people there, and all I have is a headlamp and everything like that. And there was this moment before the race started where I felt like there's I have this combination of emotions of like, I'm super excited. I'm doubting myself. I don't know if I can do this. I'm sure I can do this. Basically every emotion you could possibly imagine the moment was going through my head. And that was the kind of the moment that I realized that like, I really just love the journey and I love this aspect of running. So I kind of that was kind of the answer that I gave on the application was why do I think running changes everything is because I think that for me, it's been a vehicle for me to kind of explore my limits and physical limits, mental limits, experience a range of emotions, and basically experience everything that I possibly could as a person through this incredible vehicle of running. And so working with Fleet Feet has been an incredible opportunity because I get to not just share my experience, but just my passion and love for what we do every day with customers, whether that's somebody who's coming in just looking to get a comfortable pair of shoes because they're on their feet a lot and their feet are killing them, or it's somebody who's training to qualify for a Boston Marathon. Regardless of what they do, we have an incredible staff and incredible tools at our disposal to kind of help them meet their goals with a lot of the products and services that we offer. So that is all that I've got. I would like to open it up to any questions at this point. Yes.
So I ran a marathon about 15 years ago. Well, okay, close to 20 years, but I trained all summer for it. And like you, the first half was pretty good and the second half sucked. How much did you train for your first marathon? It doesn't sound like you trained very much at all.
So my first marathon was not a lot of training. I did a couple runs on a treadmill and on the base in North Carolina, and that was about it. So I was relying on my experience from before to carry me, and that was a bad experience.
Distance-wise, prior to the first marathon.
The furthest I ever did was a 12-mile run when I was in high school. That was the furthest I'd ever gone.
And okay, and so I have another question. What entered your mind to go after you had this bad experience with the one marathon, the later marathon, that, oh, now I'm going to do an ultimate 100 mile?
Yep.
What he's asking, are you as crazy as you seem?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say like that. It's probably a really good. The answer is probably yes. Like I've just always had kind of, I guess, like a personality, and like I've always just had an interest in just pushing myself to things that I don't even think are possible. Like I really love looking at things that are so far out there and just imagining myself doing them. Like even in school, like I remember, like I said, I had an older brother, so I would remember always like reading his textbooks from math classes years in advance and having no idea what I was even looking at, but like kind of just being interested and inspired to know that at some point, like I will learn this and I will know it. So yeah. Depending on the race, it would be anywhere from, I mean, the world record's like 11 hours, and some races it could be up to 30 hours or more. So kind of depends on that.
How long did it take you to run?
Yes. So this is the part of the story that I actually forgot. I did not end up finishing that race. I had a hip issue coming into the race, and I ended up running 86 miles and I couldn't walk at that point. So.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, how long did the 86 miles take you?
That was about 13 to 14 hours. I'd have to go back and double check, but
Nobody was chasing you with a gun.
not on that one, not that time. No.
That's how much I enjoyed it.
My really extensive experience with Fleet Feet consists of sitting in the downtown cafe on Saturday morning and watching people run by. So tell us what Fleet Feet does. I mean, when you're running groups, and how do you get in the group, and what kind of group do you have, and kind of the whole Fleet Feet organization.
Definitely. Yeah. So in terms of like the in-store kind of experience that we have at Fleet Feet, that kind of really sets us apart from a lot of other people that do the similar thing. So we have kind of an outfitting experience. It's not just a, hey, like we'll grab a shoe for you and try it on and that kind of thing. So when you come into the store, we'll have one of our outfitters sit down with you and kind of just talk about what are you using the shoe for? Like what kind of injury concerns do you have? Like what are you doing with this? And then we have a scanning process. We have two different scanners. One just makes a 3D model of your foot. You can look at exactly how long and how wide and all this dimensions of the foot. And then another scanner that picks up kind of when you walk across, where you put in your pressure as you're going through your steps. So we can kind of see from like a shoe perspective, like how much cushion and support and everything like that that you need. And then we try on some shoes and insoles and all this other stuff that we have that we can try and make whatever your goal is, whether it's just to be pain-free or to run a marathon, we can help you on that journey. And then from kind of the community group perspective, so we do have two different things. We have training programs for people who are specifically training for a race distance. So right now we have a 10K group that is training for the 5K, 10K up in San Ramon on 4th of July. And we also have a Make It a Mile group, which is kind of an introduction to running. So folks who are wanting to get into running but have never actually been a runner before. So it is a lot of just kind of like walking, running, just to kind of complete that mile. And then we also have the community groups, which I believe is probably what you're referring to, in terms of we have a running group and a walking group that meet twice a week. The walking group meets on Tuesday mornings and Saturday mornings at 8 o'clock. Margaret, who's one of our training program coaches, leads that up, and she does an incredible job. They do a couple of different, couple of different distances. Usually I'd say they're probably walking from 3 to 4 miles, and or it could be shorter or longer depending on what your preference is. And she has an endless number of routes around town to show off everything around Pleasanton. And then we have a running group that meets Tuesday evenings and Saturday mornings as well. That's run by Ethan, who is a franchise owner of the Pleasanton Fleet Feet before it was sold to Fleet Feet. And then they do a similar thing where they'll have a couple of different distances and endless routes around town to kind of show off every part of town. So, yeah.
So your operating partner, what is that?
Yeah, so that was something that like even once I took the job as an operating partner development program, like I didn't really have a good grasp on it. Essentially, the easiest way to put it is like as a store manager. So in terms of like everything in the store and then outside of the store as well. So, yep.
Tell us the Fleet Feet corporate story, when it started, how many stores you have, and talk about your inventory control.
Gotcha. Yeah, so Fleet Feet was started in 1976 up in Sacramento by two young ladies who were just kind of wanting to take running shoes out into the community. And now it has evolved into this nationwide chain that we are headquartered over in Carborough, North Carolina. And we have about 270 stores across the country split up between company-owned stores and then franchise stores. So the company of Fleet Feet owns some of these stores, about 85 of them, and then the rest of them are owned by individual franchisees who own maybe one store up to probably 6 or 7 other stores in the areas. So, and then in terms of inventory control, so Fleet Feet, the company-owned stores, we have a purchasing process that is essentially all run at the headquarters there in Carborough, that works with all the vendors, all the brands that we carry, and looks at kind of what we've sold before, what we're selling now, to kind of determine exactly the frequency in which we get inventory and exactly what that inventory is, dependent upon what that each individual market needs. So the needs of the community here in Pleasanton may not be the same as they are in Tampa, Florida. So.
There's a shoes we keep and stuff.
Yeah, so in our back room, so we just did an inventory scan a couple weeks ago. It was about 2,100 boxes of shoes.
So when I went to Fleet Feet in the past to get a running shoe, they had to try it on, and they had me run outside so they could see if you're supinating or whatever. You guys still do that? Is that, or does the scan replace that, or?
Yeah, so the scan kind of, I would say, supplements that. That gives us a really good gauge in terms of like guiding us towards the shoe that's going to work, but definitely like that experience of actually going out and trying it for the first time is still a super important part. So yeah, we'll still have outfitters. Generally, if somebody's going to be using it for running, walking, take them outside and try it out.
You key on 1 or 2 brands or
so from a shoe perspective, we have probably about 11 different brands that we carry right now. Those generally stay about the same, but there is some ebb and flows that over the years. Yep.
All of the stores standard in terms of what they do offer?
Not necessarily, no. So for instance, like some of the stores, like I know the stores in Colorado lean really heavily into the trail market just because there's a lot more hiking community and trail running community in that market. Whereas in Tallahassee, Florida, there just isn't a lot of stuff. So they cater to each individual community's needs. Yeah.
I had some experience with scanning. You talked about scanning the site.
Yep.
And I started that back when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I went down to the Buster Brown shoe store downtown where you stick your foot in it, and the X-ray came on and showed where your fingers were in relation to the shoe, and that was very similar, right?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't know who Buster Brown was.
I'm sure he did. Most of us in this room do.
It would be technology a little different, but process probably similar. So the scanner that we have just has multiple different cameras kind of on every corner of it. And it just takes a bunch of pictures and essentially a bunch of lasers make a 3D model of the foot.
I thought we were gonna hear about scanning of your hips.
Yeah, your staff is incredible.
Mhm.
I bought shoes there, the price was really fair, and I got custom-made info.
Mhm. That's awesome. Yeah.
I know barefoot shoes are pretty popular right now. What are you guys sell barefoot shoes? They better for your foot?
That would be, so we don't really technically sell anything that's like a barefoot type of shoe. Kind of the running shoe, there's always these like ebbs and flows of like, we're going to go like market says, we're going to do a lot of cushion, then there's barefoot, and then there's this kind of ebb and flow. And I've seen that even like in my time within back end of running for almost 10 years now. I would say whatever your preference is, I'd say it's a lot more preferential than it is necessarily like one's better than the other. I'd say generally if you're doing like on your feet a lot or doing a lot of running or walking or whatever it is that you're doing, the more cushion is just going to help absorb more of that pressure and the force as you're going longer. So generally if somebody's doing longer runs or they're just somebody who's on their feet a lot, generally we'll look at something that's going to have a little bit more cushion and stability to it.
Nobody who runs a marathon wears barefoot.
Not today, no. Well, maybe somebody would, but
Forrest Gump, maybe.
that's yeah. Yep.
I enjoyed your relationship and your experience as a runner. And I sit here thinking back about the 30 years that I was a serious runner.
Mhm.
Shoes were an important part. I was talking in the 50s and 60s.
Mhm.
I was always had 3 pair of shoes, rotated them. I don't know if that's necessary now. I do recall we used a lot of shoes. But I learned very early that you can't buy a cheap pair of running shoes. You have to buy a good shoe.
Mhm.
To really serve you well. Jump ahead a number of years. I had one grandson who was always interested in my running. I'm a walker now.
Mhm.
I walk 2 hours a day. But he picked that up in high school a little bit. And then, but in his early 30s, he started running. Now he is a endurance runner. He's got a couple of hundred and several 100K. The interesting thing is that after a recent marathon, he bumped into a lady who had just finished about what he did, and they chatted. And within a couple of weekends, they ran a 20 miles together. Turned out she also in the marathon. The last 6 months, they've been living together and running together. He did a marathon, 100K. He did the San Jose 100K recently. And they're lined up for 100 miles or something. There's a little spin-off for all this crazy running. I think he found a life's mate out there on the track. And I'm very pleased for him.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I was in Richard's camp. The only reason I could see running if somebody was chasing me, but I guess now you could always look at, well, maybe I could meet my soulmate out there. Other than that, yeah, you can have it. So we're going to give you the gift of time back. Before we do that, we have birthdays. We have a special birthday today. Mr. Bob Shapiro, his birthday is actually today. So why don't we sing him happy birthday? I already did once, but let's do it again. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bob. Happy birthday to you. Good job. Thank you. I don't know if we have any other birthdays this month. Well, Bob, you share it. It's all you. You go. Opportunity drawing. Do we have some money to give away? Nice, $117. Okay. The ticket is 439. 439 right here. And it's not Bill Burke. Hey! Oh. Sorry, Richard. One more. All right, let's see if we have this one. This one is 437. That's funny.
Yeah, looking for the red one. Looking for the red one. Red.
Oh, you let us down, Richard. Nice going. All right, you guys. Have a good day.